We're gonna go on and get started.
Okay.
Just welcoming all of you again to the Souls of Black Folk broadcast. I'm your host, Student Minister Rodney Muhammad, here in the city of Philadelphia. Student Minister Michael Muhammad in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And we're going to be talking about the rise of gun violence in the cities of America today. Obviously, it's a great concern. We just read the Wall Street Journal article warning people that a hot summer is coming and we can expect more shootings and unfortunately more deaths as a result of gun violence in the cities. But two cities that notably have gotten federal attention and federal officers have been in trying to synchronize efforts with local police forces, and that's the city of Chicago, Illinois, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Joining us today is going to be an advocate against gun violence and this terrible scourge that has come to our community. But of course, Chicago has stood out head and shoulders above many cities over the years. And you know, where the death rate is more, you got to have advocates that bring more to the table to fight with. And so we're happy to be joined by one of those persons in the city of Chicago, none other than Tio Hardiman. And he's been fighting against gun violence. We understand that he may have just run for governor. I wasn't sure if we're going to have to find a new phone number to call him by, but we thank you, Tio, for joining us. We know your time is limited. Welcome to the Souls of Black Folk. It's myself and Brother Michael Muhammad from Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I might as well dive right into it. You know, Wall Street Journal is saying that we can probably expect from the experts, criminologists and others saying that we can expect more shootings and unfortunately more deaths. And I'm sure that concerns a person like you, especially in a city like Chicago. When do you think it goes down sometime, it escalates sometime? When do you think we're going to get our hands, our claws into what's going on and really be able to bring down murders in our city?
Yeah. First and foremost, I want to thank y'all for having me on your show. Brother Bilal is a good friend of mine there in Philly, and then Atlantic City, New Jersey, all my brothers, and some of the good sisters on the East Coast. I appreciate you. Salute everybody there in the yes, city of brotherly love, they call it.
Yes, sir.
It
doesn't
seem like there's it doesn't seem like there's no brotherly love in Philly with the brothers, though. Okay.
Oh my God. Yeah, it really is. They say, you know, we just have the hood, not the neighborhood.
Yeah. So I got a chance to visit Philly on a couple of occasions up in North Philadelphia a few times, but in Chicago, you know, my message is real strong when it comes down to when people say what more can be done to reduce the gun violence. I believe it's going to take the Black man on a higher level. And what I mean by that, we need around 10,000 brothers to unify, not to stand down on the young brothers and talk down to them, just to bring them to the table of peace. The reason it's going to take 10,000 is because the brothers they're going to have to work very hard to, reach out to young brothers, have their family members involved in it, their uncles, their fathers, their cousins, and everybody to really hit the streets in a major way for about maybe 6 months in Philly and Chicago and mediate all the little beefs they have against one another. See, when you really address gun violence, I have to say this so everybody will be aware. See, it's a lot of things moving behind the scenes, like the illegal drug trade, the illegal gun trade. So when you really eradicate gun violence in Philly, Chicago, and major cities across the United States and the Black community, you're going to upset some of the people that are working behind the scenes to continue to push poison in the Black community and to push illegal gun play in our community. So it's incumbent upon Black men. You're going to need some silverback guerrilla brothers. You're going to need some intellectual brothers, working class brothers, business people, faith-based leaders, and all hands on deck approach right now, because a lot of young brothers, in my opinion, they're kind of lost in some ways or another, and the life they're living is the life they know, and they think it's okay. It's become the norm, okay? It's like it's normal behavior to wake up and say 4 or 5 people just got killed in one of the cities like Philly, St. Louis, or Chicago.
Yeah, I of course, Now, I grew up in Chicago, obviously, and I can remember in the 60s just being a part of the old East Side Disciples. And
Yeah,
we were in the newspaper all the time with these Blackstone Rangers. And, you know, but if 6 people got shot, that was big, 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 big news. Because
right.
most of the fights were without guns at that time. But I was going to say, I remember a time when the authorities could sit down with someone like David Barksdale or Jeff Ford and say, look, can we come to some reason? And if you could get the gang leaders to come to a table of reason like you're talking about, these guys back in my day, they could put the word on the street. They don't want a firecracker to go off.
Right.
And you talking about the shootings going down, the murder rate going down, it'd be almost instant. But these charismatic figures are they're like icons of the past.
Right.
Nobody respects anybody on that level and at that scale anymore of the big gang leaders. By them putting the big gang leaders away, it's almost like this big, massive body of young men metastasized into small, semi-autonomous groups that only listen to their own crew.
Well, that's what you have going on. I'm glad you kind of made that distinction because today's, see, now don't get me wrong. I believe truly if Larry Hoover was released or
Yeah,
Jeff Ford in Chicago, I believe they could make a difference if they want to. But if they were released, I would encourage them to just go ahead on and just spend the rest of their lives, raising their family, reuniting with their
I
wives
agree
and
with you.
kids and grandkids. Because see, you got the music industry right now is pushing death over life. And I'm not saying the music is making people kill, but in Chicago we got the drill music scene where a lot of these young brothers, it appears they can get a record deal if they have more bodies under their belt, meaning they kill people. And it's been proven they get more views and they're having stacks of money everywhere. And how can you really, put it like this, intervene when people think that money is the key to, long life or the key to success, which, we all need money. Don't get me wrong, but these young guys, they're embroiled in a lot of chaos that is over their heads. And
Yeah,
that's one part of the violence in Chicago right now, believe it or not, coming off the drill music scene with some of the younger brothers. But you're right, we have hybrid gangs and we have different cliques nowadays. And you might have somebody, for example, in Chicago, we got 600 different factions of,
yeah,
of, of street
yeah,
organizations. And everybody has shooters. Everybody has shooters now, and it's hard. You need like need a crystal ball in order to really like catch everything before that actually happens. Okay.
yes. Well, I can remember there were guns. People had guns, but and I can remember people being shot even
Yeah.
back in the 60s and 70s. But a lot of people lived after being shot. If you got shot with a 22 or a 32, but the
Yeah.
stuff they got out here now, I mean, even the Pentagon has been giving local law enforcement military weaponry, sort of militarizing these cities.
Yeah. They call it chop. They call them choppers and they call them switchers in the city now, where they can switch the cartridge and they can have about 50 shots, 100 rounds, whatever the case may be. And if you just have a revolver from the past, you really don't stand a chance. And let me just be technical with everybody. I believe in being straight up. You got a lot of cowards out here shooting and killing
Yeah,
people that cannot defend themselves. You
yeah,
see, they catch a guy, kill him, and a lot of if you want to be gangster, I tell these young guys all the time, if you got an issue with somebody, tap them on their shoulder, say, "Look, man, I need to have a talk with you before I take your life." That's keeping it gangster. You may find out that the issue you have with the person may not be what you think it is, in other words, but a
hmm,
lot of people are not willing to take a moment out. I learned this from a tough guy, a killer, a gang leader that I know in Chicago told me before he violated anybody, what he would do is his due diligence and his research on the situation. He never acted off emotions. He said he'd bring them to the table, find out exactly what happened. If violation is necessary, then he would carry it out. So if the young guys, see, a lot of times people just don't think, and by the time they start thinking, they're either dead or in the penitentiary for the
yeah.
rest of their life and took a life unnecessarily. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, and you really the kind of work and the way you're talking, That's the level we have to get at. I hear so many scientific terms now and everything. And by the time all these psychologists and social workers and everybody gets through, we ain't doing nothing but going to funerals. We still haven't reached these folks.
Well,
yeah.
You have to understand, Black Death, a theory of mine is Black Death is a hustle. You got all the different academic, this university, that university, studying the violence in the Black community. Every year, a lot of these universities receive $10, $20 million to conduct some research. And it all comes, see, the gun violence in the Black community is a Black problem. See, the police cannot solve the issue, and I'm not anti-police, but the police have not been trained on how to stop killings on the front end. You see, now on behalf of violence interrupters, I receive phone calls all the time. And it's like, see, God anointed me to do this work. I'm not saying I'm the only solution. I'm part of the solution. I received a call from the South Side of Chicago about 2 weeks ago. A guy purchased a building. He wanted to rehab the building. The former owners of the building, their grandson did not like the fact that his family lost the building due to a foreclosure. And so he shot at the new owners. He shot at them.
Wow.
He didn't hit nobody. The new owners returned fire because they're concealed carry. And then they called me, and we located the young grandson and shot at them, and we brought them all to the table, and it got a little chaotic, but we resolved the conflict on the front end. The grandson apologized, 1,000 apologies. He was going through some emotional turmoil because they had lost the house that he was raised in. And so it wasn't a gang conflict, but the grandson was part of a gang, and the new owners, they were not in a gang. They were just some everyday working class people, but we mediated the conflict on the front end, and nobody was killed, and so we get calls. So far this year, we've mediated around 20 conflicts, such as the one I just mentioned to you. So it's all about, see, after all the training and all the studies, it comes down to personal relationships with the people in the community, okay? That's how you stop killings. It's about having a personal relationship with some of them hot-headed brothers and sisters out there.
So what do you think about domestic, though? You name gangs, we name drugs, and sometimes there are other kinds of conflicts, but domestic violence seems to be working also. And I've been reading about, I had a congressman here get me the federal study on just what happens as a result of having a gun in your house. And they were showing that less than 5% of these guns that people purchase in their homes are actually used against a stranger. So that means that 95% or more of the time it's used against someone that they already know.
That happens all the time.
And then they got suicides among young people.
Well, the suicide rate is pretty high amongst a lot of our youth population. As a matter of fact, a young girl just jumped off a bridge 2 days ago in Chicago because somebody slipped some type of drug in one of her drinks about 2 or 3 months ago, and she was never the same after that. So she finally just jumped in the river about 2 days ago and took her own life. All right, and it's sad. And then domestic violence is always, it's going to always be around because it's different factors. You got some men that just beat up women. Then you got some men that they go through changes with their girl, but there's never no excuse to hit a woman. I want to make that clear. But a lot of times it's two sides to the stories when it comes to domestic violence, and people have to do their research on domestic violence just the same. But that does not mean that when you have guys that just go out their way to put their hands on a woman, that's a little different there. We just removed 3 women out of a domestic violence situation about a month ago. And because some women called my bluff, I'm trying to pay it forward to women myself. And my thing is, some women called my bluff. I was on social media. I said, if you're involved in a domestic violence situation and you really want to get out, give me a call. And they called me.
Wow.
and I have some friends that are former Navy SEALs and self-defense experts. And we went over there and we liberated 3 women on 3 separate occasions and got them out of those situations. But it's like I said, it's always 2 sides to every story. But at the same time, a woman that finds herself involved in a situation like that, she needs to try to remove herself until cooler heads prevail, okay?
Yeah. Now, from what I can remember, Chicago, years ago, Chicago just outlawed gun sales. So there you can't legally purchase a gun, if I have it right, in Chicago, but it looks like they can drive right over to Indiana and get all the hardware they want and bring back to the city of Chicago.
Well, you can also purchase guns in some of the south suburban areas and west suburban areas of Chicago. Recently, just around 3 days ago, it was revealed that 90 guns were sold to gang members in Chicago, and the guns were sold by some soldiers brought the guns into the community, some actual
Yeah, I read that
United States
story. Yeah.
military people. They brought them guns to the Black community and sold the guns, and some of them guns were tied to some murders here in Chicago. So, I mean, you got a lot of forces that are working against Black people, and I don't want to blame everything on the unseen faces, because we do a lot to ourselves as well.
Yes,
But
sir.
the reality, we do have some unseen forces out there. For example, like everybody wants to talk about the Black and Brown coalition. So I'm gonna go deep with you all now, and I don't know how it is in Philly with this, but it's probably somewhat similar. When it comes to selling dope in the Black community, you know, 9 times out of 10, the African American brothers get their dope or secure their dope package from Latino people. All right,
Yeah.
those are the guys selling the dope in our community on a higher level.
Right.
So when you talk about a Black and Brown coalition, that's the coalition. And any Black man, and I believe in the power of second chances, but any Black man that's selling dope in his community, he's really selling poison in his community. And that's they deal poison. And we have to call it like it is. I'm not saying people cannot turn their lives around, but as a Black man, you purchasing dope from Latino people, Colombian people, or whatever the case may be, bring it in your community to poison your brothers and sisters. You're like a traitor, and you committing treason in the Black community.
That's
but
right.
when you talk like this, you know, we get into problems, man. Nobody want to hear the truth like this, okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Now, years ago, and I was still living in Chicago then, there was an article in U.S. News World Report, and it was dealing with gangs and drugs in America. And at the time that this article was written, I think it was 1979 or 80 when I read this article, but it said that the Colombian drug lords, Jamaican posse, many of the larger, more vicious drug cartels, as they were trying to make their way into America to enjoy some larger concentrated markets, they couldn't do it in Chicago, this article said. They said that the street gangs of Chicago was so well oiled and organized that it was impossible for the Colombian drug lords and even the Jamaican posse to get in. And they were namely talking about the Gangster Disciples, Blackstone Rangers, whatever remnant of them. But Stateway Gardens was still up then. It wasn't tore down. Yeah. So from 51st to 35th is all high-rise building, one way in, one way out. How you gonna take that over? If you run things away, you got to come back out and face them sooner or later. So they never could get in. And you know, if you just controlled one of those buildings with a drug supply, you could send all your children to one of the best colleges in the country. You know, that's how much money could be generated out of one of those buildings, Stateway Gardens and all of that. So I guess I'm saying at some point, I guess the fragmentation of the well-oiled machines that were the gangs of yesteryear in Chicago, they fragmented and broken down, and has allowed for some of these other elements to get in.
Without a doubt. And my best, response to you is that, for example, I'll just go to Philly for a minute, a blast from the past, the Black Gorilla family, right? Yeah. And I looked at some of the interviews, one of them brothers, before he died, he was saying how he never left any witnesses on the crime scene. And I remember back some years ago, they killed some babies and some women. There's a Sunni Muslim brother, I forget his name, his family was killed in Philly.
Khalil.
Khalil. And this brother was given an interview.
He was with the Hanafis.
Right.
Then, and and they were working against, they had done some things, and the members of the Black Mafia went after them, I remember.
Yeah, but the brother was given an interview talking about how he didn't leave any witnesses, but he killed babies and women. So my thing,
Ronald Harvey, I think Ronald Harvey was a menace, in the city. Yeah.
But he killed, like I say, he killed babies and women.
He killed babies. He said something about he didn't want the seed of the hypocrite to live.
Wow.
They went after the seeds to make sure these children wouldn't grow up and come back. But it was horrible what they did. And he felt that, I think a lot of people don't realize that, because it was a Jewish judge that let the brothers off from the Black Mafia in Philadelphia, Khalil went after the B'nai B'rith. That's the building that he went to take over at first in Washington, D.C. Remember, he held all those hostages?
Yeah.
And they had a big shootout, and
right.
But and actually Lou Alcindor, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he belonged to that group. Yeah, I remember that history like yesterday. And,
yeah, that's why I mentioned it, because out of Philly. But the reason I brought it up also is because, what happens is that mindset is out there, and then younger people look at those type of guys, and we look up to these. Some people look up to these street images, and then in the ghetto areas, it becomes like prolific. The players, the dope dealers. We got to change the narrative, and now it's the rappers. Used to be the pimps and the prostitutes and the drug addicts. Nicky Barnes, Fluky Stokes in Chicago. So it's just it's like repeating itself to a degree. But I believe there's hope now. Don't get me wrong, there's hope on the other side. But it's going to take a real strong Black man effort to get us to the point where we need to be. Then we work out all our differences. I believe we can see a better day once we organize on a higher level.
We were really trying to do that with the Million Man March, with the Million Family March, and we had strong LOCs at one time, even in Chicago, I remember, and they were trying to meet and really go after this. And gun violence decreased a lot, but the FBI took credit for it. But I think it was people like yourself and others, people just working in the community. There was such a determination after the Million Man March that Black men all over the country wanted to really do something. Now, Donald Trump threatened to send the federal troops into Chicago and all of that kind of talk. And of course, nobody wanted to hear that kind of thing. But ultimately, federal agents did come into Chicago. Has it worked? Does it help any?
No, it hasn't really worked, because the numbers tell a different story. In the year 2020, we had a 53% increase in homicides. Even during the federal troops being here, homicides were off the charts as well. This year already, we're looking at a 33% increase in homicides so far, like a little bit over 230 homicides. 5 people killed this weekend in Chicago as we speak. So, the beat goes on and on. I just, a lot of the gun violence is interpersonal conflict. Some of it is, like I said, the little factions, but a lot of it is just revenge. And that's why it's hard to really capture it right when it's about to happen, because that's what people are failing at. Because if you cannot detect what's going on in the concrete jungle, it's hard to stop it on the front end. And if you don't know the young guys out there involved in the conflict, you're not going to stop it anyway, because most killers do not talk. See, the homicide clearance rate in Chicago is about 14%, meaning people get away with murder 86% of the time. So people don't want to play with that.
Well, there was a white police captain in Philadelphia just being interviewed, and they did a study in Philadelphia, and they found out that the success rate of finding the murderer when the victim is Black or brown in Philadelphia is somewhere around 27%, at its highest 31%. But when it comes to a white victim, it's 68% of the time they're going to catch the
perpetrator.
So they felt this was a racist pattern, and they were asking one of the white police captains here about it, and he said, well, no, he said, I wouldn't say it was racist. He said there's more police cooperation. When they go into white communities, there are white people who are willing to give them information and share, and this helps the police to really solve cases. But our relationship with the police, it has gotten so bad. Most of us don't want to talk to them, and even those that may, they fear for their lives, and they feel like, the police, you tell the police what you saw. If it's damaging to the assailants, the police say, well, you're going to have to say this again to the district attorney. They say, well, you're going to have to say this in court, so you point them out, or else we can't get them. Now that person's life's on the line. They either got to move or, you know,
Right.
and I've seen witnesses actually killed in the city of Philadelphia. So there's no incentive to do the right thing as a citizen, as they say.
Well, you know, with the work that I do, you know, the police, they play their role in I don't work with the police myself in that regard because my reality is keeping my street credibility in solid, but I do have a relationship with the police. I'm not anti-police. I'm only anti-excessive force and police brutality. Another case that comes out of Philadelphia, where you talk about witnesses being intimidated or killed, you got the guy of the north side of Philly, Kavani Savage.
Cabana
Burnt up a whole
Savage, right?
household. Yeah, Kavani Savage burnt up a whole household of
Yeah,
people.
five
And
of
you
them.
look, that's
Five
what
of
I'm
them.
talking about. Yeah, burnt
And
to
that
people
brother
up.
was in federal custody, but they
Yes,
went after his family because they couldn't get to him in the
right.
federal lockup here. Yeah, you're right.
So the
Uh,
reality, people are scared to step up, and I understand people being scared because see, one thing the mafia did not do, the Italian mafia, you know, your family was oftentimes off limits. They would cross that line every blue moon, but they really just dealt with the guys that were involved in that lifestyle.
that's
And
right. They didn't
some people,
bother the women, the
right?
family. That's right.
Yeah.
No, this is a whole different ball game. Well, what do you think about? It looks like violence is going to be here. It looks like people are going to always have some kind of disagreement in that, and we should always try to find the best way to deal with disagreements. But if we're going to have anger, if you're going to have disagreements, if they're going to be clashes, conflicts, isn't it just better just not to have the guns? Now, it doesn't mean we trivialize what people are going through and take a look at this, but it seems like as long as the guns are present,
Mhm.
uh, you know, it becomes too. I would even use the term tempting when people put a firearm on them and walk the
It's
streets of any city in America.
was like a weapon of convenience. You know, I could just use myself as an example. When I was 18 years old, I was on the, you know, we used to ride the CTA bus in Chicago. A
Right,
guy pulled out a big butcher knife and he told me when I got off the bus, he was going to rob me. I used to wear gold chains and stuff like that. And so, you know, I had a zip gun with me, just a little one-shot zip gun with a 22 bullet in it. You only get one shot with the zip gun.
right.
I'm playing it off. I was a little nervous, but I knew I had to, you know, do something, right? So
Yeah,
I walk off the back of the bus. He said, "Look, man, I told you, man." He pulled his big butcher knife out, and I shot him with the zip gun. You know,
yeah.
I'm laughing,
Wow.
but the reality, I heard him holler, you know, and I took off running, and I don't think I killed the guy. You know, I wouldn't be talking
Right.
about it if I had killed him, you know,
Yeah.
but I don't think I killed the guy, but I shot him, and I was nervous, shaking, cause you know that's my first time actually, you know, because I'm
Yeah.
being honest with everybody, but I got my nerves back together later on. But the
Yeah.
thing was, I mean, that was a situation. If I did not have that zip gun at that moment in time, I think because you know when a guy pull a butcher knife on you, he may know how to use it. You know, you
Right.
can't play with it. If you know how to use it, you might find yourself in trouble. So I think I did the right thing. In my opinion, because I defended myself. But
No, you got to defend yourself. I mean, that's one of the
yeah,
pledges we had in the Million Man March. I wouldn't use a gun or a knife or anything except in self-defense. But
yes,
you know, and I was going to say, I can remember growing up, and you know, when we had to put some hardware on us, uh,
yeah,
it changed my attitude. I
right.
went from I hope I don't have to get into nothing with nobody to now I got the gun on me. I wish somebody would try something. You know,
That's the
I'm
mindset. Exactly.
almost yeah, the mindset changes. So I said if that could happen to me, imagine what people who have bought into this subculture and way of living. A young man
Yep.
he got out of jail and I guess he's talking and bragging and he's standing on the corner of the street in Philadelphia talking to three people. While he's talking to three people at 1 in the afternoon, somebody drives up, gets right out of the SUV, come over and put 3 bullets in him and kill him. And
Yeah.
so I told my son, I said, God, he must have really done something
Right.
terrible
Mhm.
to get for somebody to kill him in broad daylight in front of everybody, in front of witnesses.
Yeah.
He said, Dad, you don't have to have a real good reason to kill nobody today.
That's right. That's
Mm.
right.
And you know, and that changed my thinking. And so when I hear you talk, I'm saying, yeah, man, we got to stop thinking that everything is somebody getting killed like you see in a movie because you getting ready to go to turn them into the federal authorities or something. So they're getting rid of people. They're killing people over anything today. I don't like the way you looked at me. You know,
Yep.
I used to go to South Shore High School, and I can tell you back then, um, guys used to go with girls, girls went with guys. Everybody didn't make it. You went with this person, you broke up, somebody else is going with her now. But you got people today can't take that kind of stuff. So you quit me to go with somebody else, I'm liable to kill you and him.
Yeah, it's rough, bro. It's rough, and I'm glad you say that, because what happens a lot of times when you have people already on 10, and it's an anger scale from 1 to 10, people
Yeah.
on 10 already in the neighborhoods. So
Woo.
any slight infraction would cause somebody to kill somebody, and then the hatred is tough, man. It's like I used to use the word self-hatred, but I kind of changed up and just use hatred now, because like say the guy gets shot in the head 3 times in front of a crowd. That's hatred, you know. I mean, we don't know what the guy
Yeah.
did, but I guarantee you a lot of these situations can be resolved, because it shouldn't be at a level where you want to just kill somebody. You know, that's your first, because even nowadays we're men, you know, we get into a fight, first thing cross our mind, we're going to kill them, right? That's just a
Right.
natural like feeling you have. But you know, you have to weigh things out nowadays and don't be so quick to want to
Yeah.
just, you know, take somebody's life away unless it's self-defense or something.
Because I'm sure if you sitting in a jail cell for 10 years or more for what you did,
Yeah,
uh, you thinking, man, if I had that moment to live over, I might
yeah,
have just let them talk, because look, they talking, they can't take nothing from me. And so I should have kept walking or something.
that's
But
my
we're
point, bro.
engaging people. And, you know, I don't know if you're thinking about it, but I'm thinking that we have a warped idea of manhood now. My
Right.
manhood is tied up in
Yeah,
how many bodies I got up under me, who I
exactly.
don't let talk to me a certain way or talk about me. If I hear you talking about me in a way that I don't like, now everybody's wondering, what am I going to do about it? So I can't go out like letting them think I'm just going to let you do that.
That's
Mhm.
right.
So I gotta do something to you, you know. And I'm saying, if my manhood, I think we think manhood is not an issue because you're poor, because you're
Yeah,
black, because you're in the hood and everything. But as long as our bodies are growing, we're concerned about manhood,
the
Mhm.
manhood.
whichever way we define it.
Yes. And then, like I tell young brothers, I'm not sure. And let me just pause for a second. The other brother that's on the show, I didn't want to do all the talking. I don't know if you want to get in some
Oh,
comments.
brother
Oh, no,
Michael,
no,
that's my
no, no.
co-host.
Yes, sir. Yes,
He's
sir.
drinking it all in, but
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm thinking, Brother Tio, what you're
yeah,
referring to, what you're talking about, and in this day, you mentioned, for example, the young brother whose family lost a house in foreclosure, who
yeah,
was a part of a gang, who had a gun, and
yeah.
then you
Mhm.
see another working family who purchased a home, who has a license to carry the gun.
Right, right.
They're both shooting at each other for the protection of their lives, or one because he's angry, the other for the protection of their lives. But when the police come, they're not making the distinction between who's
Exactly.
legal and who's not legal. So even having a gun today and having it licensed is
Mm.
not a guarantee that your life is safe, even if you're protecting yourself against someone who's doing you wrong. Because when the cops come up, they're not trying to make that distinction. And you
Exactly.
mentioned the social, cultural issues through music, through drug trade, underground drug trade, and then the illegal trading of weapons. When you look at the total landscape of our situation in our communities, it goes right back to what Brother Rodney said, the question of manhood, and you
Mm.
mentioned the hatred. And I guess my
Right.
question for you is, where in your work, in your effort to stop the violence in Chicago, do you actually see the balance, particularly with the carrying of guns, illegal guns, or even licensed guns?
Yeah, there's no real balance. Chicago, like I said, is all over the place right now. A lot of people have become legal gun owners, though. I must say that
Mhm.
there's been, a lot of the gun shops are selling out of guns. especially during the pandemic. And a lot of people would rather get caught with a gun than get caught without the gun. And just because you have the gun doesn't mean that you're going to get the ups on a person, because they may catch you first, you know.
That's right.
And then if you're not used to shooting guns and you find yourself in a dangerous situation, I don't care how much training you go through. You know, it's all about survival of, you know how it is, whoever, you know, if you catch it before it happens, you might be able to, you know, respond in a real strong way and get out of the situation. But I mean, just because you have a gun doesn't mean that you're going to be protected, in other words, because if you're not watching your surroundings, you never know who might sneak up on you. It's real tricky, but at the same time, there's been a real big time demand for firepower here lately. But, you know, you have to understand the psychology as well. See, you know, that Second Amendment talks about, you know, having the ability to, you know, arm yourself, arm yourself. And so I understand, but I don't think people need semi-automatic weapons and choppers and silencers and all that stuff, because it becomes, see, the hatred that exists is just it's so deep, and it's embroiled in a whole lot of different forms of hatred. People don't even know. I know some guys that are making big money in the rap industry, and they don't even look out for their babies, but they look out for their entourage.
That's right.
You know, that's another form of hatred of your own, man. You know, that woman that you had them kids by, you don't want to do nothing for that woman, so you're not doing nothing for your kids. So imagine that mentality being passed down to other young brothers, and then they grow up and they're men, and now they got issues with their women or their mothers and stuff. So it's all over the place when it comes to the hatred, but we got to find a way to kind of like reverse that trend of hatred, in other words, you know, with some of our people. It's pathetic, okay?
You sound like one of the questions I had. Do you just think maybe the whole community needs therapy and healing?
Yeah, I just talked about that on the show earlier today. The entire community needs therapy and healing. We need men to, you know, get involved in men's lives, and women get involved in the women's lives, and raise healthier children so they can make proper decisions. See, like when, you know, a child, they say most young people don't mature really mentally until they turn like 25 years old. Yeah. So when you got 13, 14, 15-year-olds, you know, making decisions as adults, it's hard for them. So they might wind up, you know, find themselves in a lot of trouble. They may not never get out of it because it's too late, because they didn't have that guidance they needed. And then people think they can make a lot of fast money on the streets. That's a big myth. Everybody doesn't make the big money on the streets. It's just a few people that make the money. The rest of them brothers out there grinding every day. That's why they killing, because you know, a lot of them, some people like to kill, though. We got to call a spade a spade. You got some psychotic people out there, guys that have lost their conscience. I know people like that in Chicago. They don't even have a conscience. So, and I had a partner, man, he's a you know, one of those kind of guys. He say, Tio, I don't have a conscience, but I can gain a conscience for some people. But if you cross me, I lose it just like that. And these guys, and scientifically speaking, there's a gland in your brain. It's like an empathy gland. There's another scientific term for it. But some people are born with a small level empathy gland where they can't identify with the pain and suffering like other people. So that's a psychotic type of mindset, or sociopath. Those people like that, they have to be dealt with a different way, sincerely, because then you got people that have lost so many lives in their family or on their brothers on the streets. They've just given up all hope for anything that's civil. So they go out and all they see is red. They just kill people because they're hurting so bad. And the only way they can cope with it is to take lives out there.
Oh man, this is really, oh man. There's so much to this discussion that, because it takes you into a deep psychological dive.
Yes.
Into, and all of it's, you know, it says to me, I'm always telling Bilal Qayyum, he and I are going over, because he's been at this as long as I have in the city. You know, he's always said, well, we need to talk to these young guys right in their space on the corner and everything. And I said, yeah, Bilal, that's true. But my problem with talking to them on the corner is we might win some points, but they go back to a home that's even more dysfunctional than the homes we had in the 50s and 60s. That's the first thing. You know, and I told him the second thing is he had about 10 of these guys, and he said to them, how many of you all, since you're only 18 and under, how many of you all have had a real gun in your hand? Eight hands went up.
Yeah.
That they have held. I said, well, let's ask them, how many of you all ever emptied the garbage or helped your mother mop the kitchen floor? And had no hands went up. I said, well, now we got a deeper problem, because they never did anything for any other human being other than themselves.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
That
there's a
happens a lot.
demonic form of selfishness, I think, that's resting in the hearts now.
Yeah.
And that's that mentality you just talked about. I ain't gonna take care of the woman or the babies that I made with her,
Yeah.
but my crew that's rolling with me, my entourage, I got to make sure they straight.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah, that's really.
and what's sad about it, a lot of those young guys, their mothers raised them. It's not like their mothers were not in their lives. The mothers
Yeah,
looked out for them. So where are they getting that mentality from? So,
Mhm.
we as as a race of people, if you study our history, like through the transatlantic slave trade, all the way through Jim Crow, civil rights, Black Power movement, we've come a long way, but we have we have to go a longer way now. And when it comes to this, see, the biggest battle right now is for reparations and to stop the gun violence in our community. Because when you
Yeah.
bring up the terminology black on black violence, some people get mad at you. They become angry because they say, well, what about white on white violence and Latino on Latino? We
yeah,
understand people kill whoever's in their close proximity. I get that, but I'm concerned about the black on black violence. That's just the way it goes.
yeah,
And I can care less if people become angry because we have to solve this issue, and we're not going to solve it waiting on the police to solve the issue. It's a no-brainer. Now, I can't say this on a positive level. I work in a community on the west side of Chicago. We've gone like 2 or 3 months without one killing in the area that I work in because I'll give a credit to the tribes over there. I have about 5 different tribes over there, and they've come up with a coexistence policy. And if anything was to, break out any type of conflict amongst tribal members in another tribe, they call us first and allow us to mediate before they pull out their guns. So as a
yeah,
direct result, and then the tribes over there, before we even started working with them, they had a coexistence policy. So I don't want to take all the credit for it because I got to give them brothers credit where it's due
yeah,
because
man.
they
That's
actually,
good.
they communicate with each other.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
Brother,
and they're playing a role. They're taking a step in a direction
right.
to heal a place that they may have helped wound the community.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Brother,
that's beautiful,
your work,
man.
your work and what you just mentioned reminds me of the work of our brother out in in LA, Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad,
That's
formerly
good.
Brother Tony. And you mentioned the 600 different street
Right.
organizations out there.
Yeah,
Do you see or have you seen any type of unity and type of coalition effort between them, like you just mentioned, on the west side of Chicago? And if so, could you speak to that? Is that a possible solution to end the violence among at least the street organizations through that type of policy and mediation?
Oh, without a doubt, it's incumbent upon the brothers once again to work things out. But you got some young hotheads, knuckleheads that may not want to listen. But that's where, a lot of them, OGs from the past. That's where they come in at. They should go back to their former group that they used to be an OG over or involved in it, and really work with them young guys and help them, raise the bar in regards to the way they think, because that's what it's going to take. Because you always got somebody tougher than you. And then 10
yeah,
years from now, but some people say, well, they can care less. If they feel they're going to die tomorrow, they don't care nothing about 10 years from now, you know? So it's just going to take a real strong effort. A clarion call needs to be placed like the Million Man March, where we can go mediate all these existing beefs in the Black community for 6 months straight. And I believe we'll see a big reduction then. I'm talking about a major reduction,
Mhm.
okay?
man. That is so great. Well, look, man, this has been a great time with you, talking with you. We've got to have you back. I hope you'd be willing. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Bilal. He must have got the times mixed up, but he stays so busy with the Father's Day Rally Committee. But he had promised to be on with us today.
Yes.
He we're trying to, he and I are trying to really put together a more wholesome model. The 10,000 man thing that you talked about, we did that in Philadelphia, but there was
Okay.
too much clashing with the organizers.
Yeah.
It was a matter of who was going to get the top billing for, we were sort of acting like the people on the streets we were trying to heal. So,
Yeah.
but we got 10,000 men together. We had a big thing. It was all on CNN and everything. And
Yeah.
then it just began to fragment. But we went to different parts of the city. We were able to bring men. There are a lot of Black men that want to do something. They need some direction on how to do it.
Yeah.
But when we go out in a force like that, I think it makes an impression on the young men that are out there that are lost, but you know, they're not doing all the killing. Like you said,
Right.
there's these arguments, there are things going on. And so I know the whole community, but you know, I think we should target the youth because that's who we got to save, because mathematically they're going to be the ones left here on the planet.
Mhm.
Well, I'm
after
glad
we
you
go there.
mentioned the infighting, and I know we don't have time to get into it now because I have
Yeah.
to go right at 3 here, but that's where you need guys like me to come in, and don't get this wrong, don't take this wrong. I keep my ghetto card in my back pocket, okay?
That's right.
I'm,
That's right.
I'm the guy, if I see where the leadership is not doing what they're supposed to do, I'll cuss everybody out and get them on one page.
That's
I have
good.
time to play no game. This is for the people. All that top billing. The only people need top billing is Allah, God, number one, right? And number two, this
That's
is
right.
about our people. So if it's really about our people, why you worried about who name appears first?
Right.
You're not getting nothing out of that anyway, buddy. If you want to stop the killing and unify, period. That's what's hurting us as a people now. All these egos and all this here. Everybody wants some clout. You know, I'm the man, alpha dog. I'm the guy that cuss people. I mean, don't take it wrong. I don't want your audience to take it wrong. But
No, I think
right.
we have to have that kind of that scale of in-house discussion.
yes,
You know, to do it, because you know things come up, and once the media gets involved and everybody's
Right.
starting to get the microphones and getting the press, you know,
right.
it gets tense. I never forget opening up a Sunday paper and right on the headline, someone said, "We didn't want this to look like a nation thing."
Right.
So I guess they were talking about the mosque I'm over and everything, and we never tried to make it that. We never we in fact we were just doing a team plan, but
Yep.
our presence sometimes made people feel a little intimidated in that. But we were there to be team players with everyone else, and Bilal could tell you that he was one of the biggest organizers, the mobilization committee for the Million Man March here.
Okay.
And, yeah, we had people, we had rallies all over this city, and I know the murder rate went down from almost 500 a year. We were well under 300.
Oh, that's amazing.
We were starting to get under 250, but we're headed back toward 500 or 600 this year if we don't do something to derail this. So that's one of the reasons we got the show today. He and I talked, and I said, look, I want to bring you and Tio on. So we thank you for being with us, and we hope we can reach out to you. We're going to have a gun violence forum here.
Okay. Well, thank you, brothers. Okay.
Maybe you'll get to cuss somebody out on this thing, because
that's right. Now we'll be all right. We do it in a professional way.
Professional way, man.
That's right.
But cuss them out nevertheless.
That's right. That's right, bro. We got to do what we have to do. We intellectual thought leaders as well. You know, we think on a high level. I'm an adjunct professor. I teach in the field of criminology, restorative justice. It's just I learned the hard way. You got to keep your ghetto card every now and then. You got to pull it out.
You got to pull it out. That's right.
That's right.
Look, Tio, man, we thank you for being with us, and we hope to have you back again on a bigger forum and platform. We'll send you the link so you can see the show, and you can send it to all your folks, but we'll show you, they can go right to YouTube and pick it up anytime. It'll be in the inventory.
Okay, and thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you, sir. All right.
Okay, peace.
Okay, all right. That's another edition of the Souls of Black Folk, and we thank you for being with us. Join us next week. We air every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. You can see us on Facebook Live and the YouTube page. God bless you all.